just sharing meaningful experiences in person. And so we lost out on 18 months or 19 months of being able to share each other's stories, give each other hugs, laugh, smile, and basically have in-person programming. Advantage Lancaster's relationship with Dr. Hamlin is a personal relationship first. So Sharice and I, we are both founders of nonprofits that are run by African American and founded by African American people. So we connect at a certain level through that. So we talk to each other about advice on how can we collaborate, or even, what are some pitfalls in the nonprofit world that we should be aware of, or what are some grant opportunities that we should be aware of. There'll be opportunities for Advantage Lancaster students to work for Patients Are Waiting. So as an educator for 20-some plus years, I work with children. I'm a 6th grade teacher as well as a nonprofit co-founder. So I thought it was really important for me, as far as me being safe and being in the classroom with students, as well as my mom is in her 70s. I just lost my dad, and I just felt like I wanted to hug my mom. And like I said on a Zoom call, you can't hug your mom on a Zoom call. You can't wipe away tears on a Zoom call. And so I knew as soon as I got the opportunity to get vaccinated, I was going to do so, because I wanted to be safe for my family, for the students that I taught, but on a personal level for my mother. I wanted to be able to be with my family, and it was a no-brainer for me in that aspect. As far as the pandemic affecting communities of color, anytime you have extreme situations like a pandemic, not like we have these all the time, but it's always going to affect communities of colors or those underrepresented in life even more than other communities. And so I would read in the paper or see on the news the numbers and the disproportionate rates of how it was affecting people of color. And so I thought it was very important for me to do my part in making sure that I was safe and making sure that people in my family could be safe. I just thought it was just really important for people of color to take it seriously. I'm very optimistic when I look at what Patients Are Waiting is doing. I mean, they're mobilizing. I mean, every weekend you see them offering the vaccine to people. And I'm not sure what the turnout is, but they're not stopping. And so that gives me hope that, there are people out there that are continuing to fight and, get that message out that the virus is real. And if you want to be safe, this is an option for you. So I'm very optimistic, as far as I do know that there are healthcare workers and there are people that are, still fighting the fight, as far as making sure that the right information and the vaccine is getting out to people who may be reluctant, who may have some hesitancy.
Good morning. Wake up, guys. It's TCP in the morning.
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up! Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up. It's TCP in the morning.
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 TCP in the morning.
It's 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 TCP in the morning.
Good morning. Wake up, y'all. It's TCP in the morning with the morning tea.
Sing the song here in a minute.
TCP in the morning.
Tighten up.
Let the swag breathe.
I'm tightened up today. Let's do it.
Let the swag breathe.
Let's go.
Yes. Hump day, man.
Yes.
She said, bring the BDE.
Oh!
So let's do it.
Oh, that's all we know.
That's all we do. Folks, we have a wonderful show for you today. We're not going to delay it anymore. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to the show. Wait. Wake your ass up. Wake your ass up.
To
Brush your teeth, hey. 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 Don't forget your ass. Don't forget your ass. Don't forget your ass. Don't forget your ass. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Hey.
Good morning,
Welcome
Lisa.
to the show. Welcome to the show. Sarge, what up?
What up, though? How y'all doing? Happy Hump Day. Y'all know what it is.
Yes.
Either you at the top of the hump, or work your way down, or work your way up, whichever way you go, baby.
Yes, indeed.
But just keep doing it the way you do it.
Yes.
How y'all feeling today?
Yes.
Like, I'm loving the weather. You know, it's a little warm, a little chilly today. It
Yes.
was chilled my nose a little bit. But it's great. It feels good to be here.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, y'all.
Very happy to be here. Yes. Yo, I just want to say that the subtitles had the word ass blocked out. I love it. We're here for you, America. Lady L.
It's hilarious.
Good morning. Happy Hump Day.
Hump Day.
Mike.
Listen, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Go ahead and share the stream. We got some awesome-tastic melanated stories for you. We, of course, have our awesome-tastic black lady doctor. Yes, Dr. Sharice Hamblin, one of the co-founders of Patients Are Waiting, a sponsor of the show, will be here live in studio joining us today. Not only that, but we got our State Representative Mike Sturla also stopping by. So make sure that you have your voters' questions ready. Okay, guys, I know you have been waiting for this. We've had his opponent here joining us on this campaign run. So I hope that you guys are ready for him to join us on the show today. So go on ahead and do what? Share the stream. Oh, and don't forget, guess what today is?
Hump Day.
Hump Day.
Y'all know what the day is. She's just been talking about it for the last 3 months.
If you watch the show,
It's today.
you definitely know what today is.
Today's the day.
Like,
Yes.
do you know
DJ.
what today is?
There we go.
Yes.
Can we turn the lights down?
Happy anniversary, TCP in the morning.
Uh-oh.
Happy anniversary, TCP in the morning. 2 years to the day.
That's funny. Yes. And
all right.
as I have birthed other Luptons, I have co-birthed
All right, let's do
TCP in the morning on my anniversary.
Yes.
This is actually, before it was TCP in the morning's anniversary, it was Marquise and Whitney Lupton's anniversary.
DJ, hit that music for them. Turn the lights down.
Right, we gotta play.
Listen, hold on, yeah.
Oh,
That
my
thing
God.
that Keith had playing.
And I hope that my boss will allow me to leave early today.
Oh.
Well, you're going on a lunch date with Dr. Ricks.
Oh.
So I don't know about leave early, but you are going to be absent for 4 hours. So
I'm just gonna be at lunch today. No, because she has to be. She has class at 2 p.m.
Oh, so then lunch is going to be from 10:30 to 1:59. I see how it goes. Yes. Folks, it is our anniversary. Yes, 9 years ago, Lady L and I tied the knot. It was a beautiful ceremony in the city of brotherly love, family and friends, and all of that. Ooh, did I do that?
Yes, you did.
It died.
Oh, it died.
Family, friends, and everybody in between joined us in on our celebration and the first day of our last day of being single. So,
You know what's crazy? I was in the shower thinking about our wedding and everything like that, and I was thinking about how we planned for a wedding for like 4 years before we actually got married.
Yep, and the wedding was nothing like the plans.
No, we kept shifting it. We wanted a destination wedding,
Yep.
and it was like, we have relatives that, can't necessarily go out the country or,
Yep.
wouldn't go out the country.
Yeah.
Right? We were like, well, let's do something on a boat. We can do a cruise, and
Yeah.
people that want to stay on a cruise with us, they can. And that became an issue, and it was crazy because we were worried about like relatives from smaller towns that weren't going to come into the city,
Yep.
and they still didn't.
Yep.
So listen, if you are ever worried about your family or relatives coming to your wedding based on this location, honey,
Don't.
you do you.
No.
You do you.
The wedding was a come up. What we spent and what we got back in return It was a come up.
I do not believe your wedding should leave you in debt. If you start your marriage in debt, good for you, I guess.
Yeah, right. It's a long way uphill from there if you start your marriage in debt.
Yo, we took that money and went on a cruise. 7-day cruise.
Yeah, the wedding paid for the honeymoon.
Right, exactly. That's how it should be.
And all the family came together to make it happen.
Yes.
Somebody got the cake, somebody got the favor, somebody got our broom that we jumped, somebody everybody had a part in our wedding.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing, y'all. That's a beautiful thing.
And I forgot the ring in the car.
Oh, good for you.
So somebody had to go get the ring for you.
So my brother, shout out to my brother.
Oh, clutch.
Shout out to my brother.
Everybody got their hands on this weapon.
Hey, look, everybody's hand.
Right.
Was in.
Everybody.
That's a beautiful
so
thing, y'all.
The honorary brother was the honorary best man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because come to find out, he went to get the rings. Marcus like, yeah, the car keys are in my pocket. And the rings were in his pocket.
Yeah. Oh. Yep. So, my big brother, shout out to Kevin. Kev, always there for me, always looking out. Appreciate you. But yes, folks, after all that banter about love,
man,
we got some stuff to talk about, man. So let's get right into it and give you what you need and what you wanted. But first, DJ Double O, what's up, man?
Ooh.
I was planning on being Skip with all the love talk. I was like,
I was a sensitive moment.
We kind of tight on the window. We should get to the news. Anyways, man, as always, glad to be here on this hump day. Happy to be with the TCP in the morning family.
Yes.
Glad to be doing what we're doing. Happy to have our guests here and ready to get these people the news.
Yes,
Woo,
yes,
woo.
yes. Let's give the people the news. Got to give the people what they want. So, folks, what's up?
What stories we going over today?
We got the White House says the U.S. has exhausted funds for the 4th dose of COVID. Atlanta HBUs get bomb threat response training from experts.
Oh, man.
And Maury is going.
Hey, time to give the people, yeah. Give the people what they want. And that's the news.
With a shimmy.
Thanks for stopping by. Our first story for today.
We didn't even do good mornings.
Good morning.
Didn't even do the good morning. Look,
I got a couple people on
Y'all all in love.
Right.
Y'all all in love on the stream.
Right.
We got some IG folks here.
What's up, IG?
Good morning, IG.
The music dropped early.
Good morning to Miss Lee 829.
What's going
One of
on?
my
Miss
baby's
Lee.
godmamas. Good
Hey,
morning.
baby godmama.
Good morning, Meek the Zillionaire.
What's going
me.
on?
Good morning, More to Love.
Hey.
Good morning, DL Bowers.
What up,
Hey,
though?
what's
Let's
going
go.
on, Dayron? What's up? Look, if the stream on IG looks like super close up, go on ahead, press that camera button on the bottom with the plus, and then hit cancel, and then it should be a little zoomed out for you, so you can have a better viewing experience. So, folks. Man, we have a bunch of good mornings. Lisa, good morning. Rebecca, good morning. Taekwon, good morning. Chiquita, good morning. Sabrina, good morning. Neville, good morning. Chiquita says that's the energy I needed this morning. Corinne, good morning. Chiquita says loving the fit. Lady L. Jennifer, what is going on? Let me tell you, I put that sauce on my ribs.
Oh my gosh, yo.
Oh my God.
Bacon wrapped sweet potato.
Oh, I'm in love.
Can I say it again?
Say
Say it bacon wrapped sweet potatoes. Oh my goodness.
I didn't know they existed.
Yeah, they were
I didn't know
so
they were
good.
so delicious.
But I'm glad that I know today.
Yo, I know now. I'll never go back to regular sweet potatoes. Wrapping all my sweet potatoes in bacon.
Yo, straight up. She says, good morning, all. Thank you for having me yesterday. You have the best energy ever, and you have the best food ever.
Ooh.
I put that ish on everything.
It was so good.
It feels like TCP Network food competition is about to go down.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
man.
All these
Nate,
chefs.
Nate, good morning to you. Lisa
Good morning.
and Kayla and Thaddeus and Marie and Chiquita all say happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Marie says good morning. Neville says congratulations, y'all. And some more happy anniversary. Sci-Fly Drone Services said good morning.
Morning.
Mommy says good morning and amen. George Lewis says happy anniversary along with Corinne. Folks, let's give you what you came here for.
What they come for, boss?
They came here for the news.
Did they
Do
really?
it.
They came here for the news. So let's give it to them. All right, so White House officials say U.S. has exhausted funds to buy potential fourth vaccine dose for all Americans. I just want to know, hey, how is America running out of money?
When you can just print more.
What are you talking about? We just sent money to Ukraine.
And maybe that's why.
And
but I'm just like, yo, who do we owe?
And how do the pharmaceutical companies think they can say no?
Right. Like, this is America calling.
We're shutting you down and taking the vaccine.
I'm sorry. At one point, weren't they forcing like people to stop making whatever they were producing and to produce masks?
Yo, America,
stop whatever you were producing and produce these COVID medications. Figure it out.
America's not about the black mamas. They're not about the I ain't got us. Like, y'all ain't about to say you ain't got McDonald's money.
Dog, you just sent $800 million to Ukraine.
Yo. Right.
But go ahead, let's get into the story.
Right. Let's get to the story. So the Biden administration lacks the funds to purchase a potential fourth coronavirus vaccine dose for everyone, even as other countries place their own orders and potentially move ahead of the United States in line, the administration officials said on Monday. Federal officials have secured enough doses to cover a fourth shot for Americans ages 65 and older, as well as the initial regime for children under the age of 5. Should regulators determine those shots are necessary, said 3 officials, speaking on the condition of anonymity to detail funding decisions. But the officials say they cannot place advance orders for additional vaccine for those in other age groups unless lawmakers pass a stalled $15 billion funding package. Right now, we don't have enough money for fourth doses if they're called for. And this comes from White House coronavirus coordinator Jeff Zients. And he said on a forthcoming episode of In the Bubble with Andy Slavitt, which was recorded Monday and shared with the Washington Post. We don't have the funding, he says. If we were in need of it, and if there was a variant-specific vaccine in future, we can't cover it. Federal regulators and health officials have not yet determined whether a fourth shot is needed, and some experts question whether the extra dose will be necessary to boost protection for the general population. But administration officials said placing orders for additional doses ahead of time, rather than waiting for the United States to be swamped with another wave of the virus, was imperative and a key lesson from the pandemic's past 2 years. They also noted that the fast-moving Omicron variant evaded some immune protection conferred by existing vaccines, demonstrating the need to invest in more targeted shots that could better fend off Omicron and potential future variants. Well, folks, there we have it. They ain't got it. They ain't got it. So the vaccines that are already out right now, you know, those are available. But the funds for a fourth shot, not there unless Congress passes this $15 billion plan. This is very, very, very hard to digest. Very hard to. Go ahead, Sergeant. Before I get into more.
I keep bringing up the Ukraine thing because America has committed to $2.7 billion spending for Ukraine. $2.7 billion. That's not enough to cover the vaccine.
$2.7 billion. Oh, okay.
Like that's how? How do we give money to other people? That's like not taking care of your own house, but giving money to somebody else. You know, not taking care of your own kids.
Isn't
like,
that
you're
America?
sick, but hold on. I know you're sick, but let's go help somebody else.
Isn't that America though? I want you to have this baby, but I ain't gonna give you no help for it.
Texas.
That's sad.
Florida. Yeah. How about you, Lady L?
I'm hoping that since they ain't got the money for this, I'm hoping that the money that they do got can go somewhere where it's needed, like homelessness, right? Things that we can tackle right here at home in our backyards. There are people that are still out of work. There are people that are underskilled for the new tech boom that's going on right now here in America with all the online learning and things of that nature. So, I mean, there's lots of other places where, you know, these types of funds could go. And we need that. But to just be like, oh, we don't have it and we don't, it seems like you don't want to commit to the idea just yet, right? We know that there's going to be more variants coming in, but you don't want to have to pay all that money out right now. And to be quite honest, the government may feel as though that enough people have gotten their vaccines and their boosters that for those that have not gotten it already, then
Yeah.
That's it. That's just what it is.
May the odds be ever in your favor
Right.
for your immune system.
Right. That's it. Y'all better get that pomegranate out. That tongue cat Ali, whatever y'all out there taking, get the sea moss
That
something.
sea moss, yeah.
You know what bugs me the most is that these companies are that say, well, we're going to charge you this much money, America. Listen, you get to do business in America. You have made money off of health insurance companies, money off of hardworking Americans for how long? You know what? In a time of need, hey, you're going to have to suck it up, bite the cost.
Yeah.
Suck up the cost. Like, look how much
they made enough money.
Look at the profit these businesses have been making over the years. Even with these oil companies, okay, you know what? Well, bang, now you're saying, like, you can't do this, you can't do that. We're going to shut your business down. These oil companies, these big companies, get away with murder.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
They do whatever they want, charge whatever they want. Oh, it's inflation. You guys had profitable margins these last couple of years. How's it inflation?
Right.
Everything.
They need more.
Yeah, your money's going up.
It's the war. Oh.
Yeah, like it.
Russia.
When Putin even comes out and goes, listen, I don't know about the gas. Like, we only control 2%.
2%.
Like, that is not my fight. That's what he said.
I'm sorry. I could have sworn that there were a number of Lancastrians who had gotten arrested fighting against the pipeline. The Keystone XL pipeline that comes right through our community here in Central PA.
And in some cases, some people's backyards.
The same people screaming, blame Biden.
Yeah, somehow. And they have those stickers and they put them on the gas pump, and he's like, I did that. But also bringing in Biden. Some experts say that the reason why the White House is saying this is because of this report that's coming out from the Washington Post that says that Biden's plan for a new normal spurs worries about the next COVID surge and who is going to be left behind. So the new guidelines from the centers for the CDC is telling 99% of Americans living in counties labeled green or yellow that they can safely go outside without masks, and puts the onus on the citizens to protect themselves as mask orders begin to dwindle down. The changes were based on a new framework designed to protect communities from the worst surges, but to also move on with life being less disruptive. So the plan's adequacy may soon be tested if the United States sees the same sharp increase in coronavirus cases that is now happening in Europe. A possibility federal officials are anticipating is if such increases lead, it will change some communities back to a reclassification of red. So we see that the Biden administration wants to move on, so they're saying these things to usher us on. It probably has to deal with America's bottom line, and fears of is there going to be a fourth pandemic? Now that numbers are going back down again, are they going to go back up in the fall time for the third year in a row? There's a lot of uncertainty, but there's also our powers that be trying to get us into back to how things were, but I don't think things will ever be back to it.
And there were a number of people who didn't like the way that things were.
Yes.
Like having that opportunity to work from home and not have your boss watching over you. What you doing? Did you do it? Did you do it? Are you done? Did you? I could just be home and in my mind and get it done. But roughly about 65% of Americans, or 217 million people here in America in stateside, are considered fully vaccinated by the CDC. And so then not only that, but out of those people, about 97 million have received their booster shots, or about 29% of the entire U.S. population, right? So roughly 65% are completely and fully vaccinated. And of that 65% that are vaccinated, 29%, they have their booster shot. So let's just say that There's 65%. I mean, more than half of America is fully vaccinated according to the government. So do we really necessarily need to have the extra dosage and everything like that? So here's the thing. The Washington Post said that the administrative official said placing orders for additional doses ahead of time rather than waiting for the United States to be swamped by the wave of the virus was imperative and a key lesson from the pandemic's past 2 years. They also noted that the fast-moving Omicron variant evaded some immune protection conferred by existing vaccines, demonstrating the need to invest in more targeted shots that could better fend off Omicron and potential future variants. Right? So I can understand, you don't want to put all your money here and you're not quite sure if it's going to work against these variants that are coming down the way that may or may not come. So yeah, I can dig it. Save your money in the meantime, right? Because we already seen everybody boosted and everything like that. There were some reports a couple months back that were saying the newer virus trends were people who were fully vaccinated. So they're just trying to hold on to a couple coins. You can't be mad at them. You can't be mad at them. America acting like a broke person. It's okay.
Shoot. We have.
Let me see how this gonna go.
Dr. Hamlin, she says, "Good morning, y'all. On my way, and we can't wait for you to get here, Dr. H." Corinne says, "Yes, these Republicans stay pointing the finger. This is why government courses need to be taught in high school." Absolutely. And then Ray, good morning to you, good brother. He says, "Good morning, y'all. I will be a bit early, but Mike Sturla got to go. All career politicians do." All right. Well, Ray, like you said, he's a bit early, but yeah, share that energy at 9 a.m. So, Sarge, if you can take us to our next story, please.
All right, now our next story, we're going to get on Ukraine, okay, and what it's like for the African scholars over there and how the future remains uncertain. Okay, so Ukraine was one of the top destinations for medical studies, including for tens of thousands of Africans before the recent invasion by Russian forced millions to flee that war-torn nation. A new report from OK Africa explores how the current conflict in Ukraine has left those students in maps uncharted. So according to it, Africans comprised almost one-fourth of more than 80,000 foreign students who lived in the nation before Russia invaded. Many explain that they chose to study in Ukraine because it offered a quality education, a good economy, plus gave them the chance to see more of the world. But Russia's attack has now saddled them with the trauma and left them unsure of what will happen next. In addition to the fear that came from fleeing Ukraine before the military operation began, many African students found themselves facing blatant racism as they tried to escape. Now the focus has turned to resettlement efforts. There are a group of volunteers, including many members of the African diaspora, helping them to find accommodations. Special mandate holder at the United Nations Human Group of Experts on People of African Descent, Mariam Ikudoki, said lots of universities opened their dormitories and many local governments have been very welcoming. Hampton University in Virginia is among those expected to welcome displaced co-eds needing more than shelter. The prestigious HBCU will provide free room and board and tuition to between 50 to 100 Ukrainian and international students. The collective Hampton University faculty, staff, and students are heartbroken because of the war-torn country of Ukraine and must deal with the atrocities. I think this partnership is something that can be beneficial to a great number of students and families. My entire career has been focused on helping people to achieve and meet their goals, said Hampton University President Dr. William R. Harvey. He said, for students who may not be able to migrate to the U.S., other challenges remain, including helping them obtain their transcripts, find housing, and gather funds to pay for school in neighboring nations like Poland, Hungary, and Germany. The atrocities are going on. Imagine trying to leave a country that you actually went to go to school in. You paid money to come here.
To make that country
better.
Right.
There are cases of black and brown people running for their lives. You know, there's a video to where a black man, he ran into the police officer, ran into a police station to get help because he was being chased by Nazis. He was like being chased by like a group of like racist Nazis because they are in Ukraine. You can research it.
Yeah.
All right, and he was kicked out to this crowd, and they haven't seen this kid since. You know, how do you react when you get that kind of news? All right. On February 25th, 2022, there was a group of students that were traveling along trying to flee. All right. They were trying to get to leave in Western Ukraine. The problem was in the midst of the exit rush at the train station, there was apparently still time for some of the nastiest, most unvarnished racism he had ever witnessed. The order of priority for getting on the trains of what had become a war zone overnight was this: white women and children first, white men second, then everybody else afterward if there was any space left. After much heavy and shoving, this group of students managed to make it onto this train to leave. Upon getting there, the same scenario played out. Eventually, upon getting to the Polish border, after hours of walking through freezing winter temperatures, this group of friends found themselves facing another round of racial segregation. This time by the Polish border guards, who first turned them back at gunpoint, directly violating the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, and then eventually forced them into the second of two queues. The first queue was for Ukrainians, they said, and the other was for everyone else. Now, it sounded halfway reasonable, was it not for the fact that the Ukrainian queue did not require as much as a passport check. Apparently, the only passport one needed to be was to be white. The guard would process multiple Ukrainians for every other they process, which made the Ukrainian queue move much quicker. This, incidentally, is in breach of Protocol 1 of the 1977 Geneva Convention. All right, so African students have been coming to Ukraine and to Poland to do studies since the end of the Cold War era, since the end of the Soviet Union, during the rebuilding days. You know, so they've been coming here because they're getting a high education, but at a cheap price. You get there, and this is how you're treated?
Right.
Like, one thing that you don't see on any news channels, for the most part, other than maybe on a weekend, is black and brown faces fleeing Ukraine.
Right.
Like, how is that even possible? Right? Like, someone explain it to me, because these kids, these students, these kids, that's what I'm going to call them, kids.
Kids, 'cause that's what
these
they are,
kids are experiencing this right now.
Yeah.
And it's not because of Russia. All right? It's not Russia doing it.
Right. I look at this story and I'm like, these students, these kids, they're fighting two wars right now. They're fighting the war from Russia, and dealing with that PTSD and the constant shelling and everything, and wondering if the building that they're seeking shelter in is going to get bombed. So they're fighting that war, but they're also fighting the war on Africans, racism. They are fighting racism, and they have to navigate the war, and they have to navigate the races that live in the country as well, that are taking advantage of this war-torn time. They're taking advantage to take black life, because the police really aren't policing as they should right now, because there's war. So you have these people taking advantage of the situation, and in the midst of all this war, they still choose to take black life. Like, this is how deep racism runs. And it's not just an American thing. This is how deep it runs, that even when your life is in danger, when there is an active army heading your way, you still have time
to be racist
and kill black people. Like, how effed up in the mind do you have to be to have your life on the line and still want to take another life? Again, folks, this is how deep this thing called racism runs, and my heart hurts for these kids, because yes, they have to fight two wars right now. And they were brought there for medical school to save lives. Like, that's real. That's where this black schizophrenia comes from. Cause it's like, I came here to help y'all, and then y'all have the audacity to try to take my life. Lady L, let's bring you in on this.
I think the idea Always ideas are always good, but there are already so many issues with this, from how are students going to get to Hampton University for the rest of this semester, to how they're going to obtain their transcripts, to how are you going to pay for them to go to school. Because here's the thing, they are only allowing them free room and board for the duration of the semester. If they want to take classes and stay in the summer, they have to pay for that. Yeah, that's right. So I don't think that this was fully thought through. I think, maybe they were just having lunch and somebody was like, oh, let's offer room and board to some of the African students from Ukraine. I'm like, yeah, and it can be free for the rest of the semester. The rest of the semester, I want y'all to know that the semester concludes in May. Summer classes, they have to pay out of pocket. Housing, they have to pay out of pocket. A part of why they ended up in the Ukraine studying was for the cost. And now what Hampton's going to do is wave a carrot and say, hey, you can come here, finish out the semester for free. But if you stay, you got to pay. Now, how are they going to get home? How were they going to get acclimated? Like, there's just so many questions that nobody, I don't think that they thought about these things. They just said, hey, let's throw this out there. And didn't really think about it. 100 students. How are these 100 students getting from Poland to Virginia? How are these students getting from Romania to Virginia? Again, they went to Ukraine for the cost, and you're telling them that they're going to get a free ride for the duration of the semester. The semester's already halfway through. So it's free to go to school for the next 12 weeks? Come on, y'all. Over to the desk.
Like, so a lot of people, they really don't understand. Like, they're looking at these students as if they're immigrants. They're looking at the black and brown people as if they're immigrants, but they're not.
Right.
All right, they're paying students, all right, that studied abroad. And that's the problem, because the European public typically knows about Africans in Europe beyond the simplistic narratives of what? Poverty, crime, and migration. That's it. All right, so they have this. The Europeans have this in their mindset, and that's the way they look at it. We're looking at the AU right now to see what they're going to do. And they're kind of dragging their feet on it. And that's what happens when you have wars going on here and there. Everybody battling. Yeah. But yet we won't step into that. We won't ensure stability. Why do we want peace and stability in the Middle East, but we don't want peace in Africa?
Right.
We don't want the peace and stability in Africa. Why? That's all I need explained to me.
Resources. That's why. Resources and still be able to exploit those resources in Africa. Candace, she says, good morning, TCP family. Ray says, by African, are we talking about melanated, or are we talking about conquerors of Africa? Ukraine ain't no friends to color folks. And on that note, we are going to keep it moving on this lovely hump day. So Sarge, what you got for us for our second story?
We're on third story.
Third. Oh my gosh. Third story. Third story, Lady L. I'm sorry.
All right, guys. So there's a new study out that shows half of women in color who are working don't make a livable wage. It's okay, though. We don't need to. We just going to have babies, right? Right, Texas? All right, so Oxfam America, an organization that operates globally to end poverty and injustice, released a report revealing that almost 52 million workers, nearly a third of the U.S. labor force, earns less than $15 an hour. A study found the groups that disproportionately make less than $31,200 annual income are women and people of color. The study indicated that 50% of women of color in the workforce make less than $15 an hour. The report also showed that about 47% of black workers and 46% of Hispanic workers earn less than $15 an hour, compared to only 26% of white workers. This year, we find that the national average housing wage, which is what someone would need to afford a one-bedroom rental, would need to afford if they were working Oh, goodness. Okay. This year, we find that the national average housing wage, which is what someone would need to earn if they were working full time 52 weeks out of the year in order to be able to afford rent and utilities in fair market rent. Nationally, someone would need to earn $20.40 an hour to afford a one-bedroom rental home. They would need to earn $24.90 an hour to be able to afford a two-bedroom home. And this comes from Dan Threet, a housing specialist from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Threet also explained that the average renter's wage is $18.78 an hour, and minimum wage employees earn less than that, depending on the state that they live in. Democrats have insisted the federal minimum wage be increased to $15 per hour nationwide. The Labor Department said that consumer prices increased 0.8% between January and February, and costs were 7.9% higher in February than they were last year. It's shameful that at a time when many U.S. companies are boasting record profits, some of the hardest working people in this country, especially people who keep our economy and society functioning, are struggling to get by and falling behind. It's been 13 years since Congress raised the wage floor in this country, and in that time, all costs of living have steadily climbed. Oxfam's report also included a map showing percentage of workers who earn less than $15 an hour by state. The state of Mississippi has the highest percentage of workers earning less than $15 an hour, which includes 63% of black workers and 70% of women of color. Due to their higher minimum wages, Washington, D.C., Washington State and California have a lower percentage of low wage earning workers, according to the study. And there you have it, guys. Poverty. That's how it works.
Yeah.
We just don't pay you enough. And it sucks because I always think about slavery and an economy that's built on slavery, right? Think about that. They built this country on slavery, on free labor, on the ability to threaten somebody's life to make them do what you want them to do, and made their hundreds of millions of billions of dollars, right? And those people that were forced, that were threatened, that were beaten, that were held against their will, never got a nickel in all them years. Never got a nickel. And when the government said, oh, we can't do this no more, this is awful, we got to let you guys go and let you be human, they still didn't give you a nickel. They said, okay, go out there and make it work for yourselves. After we kidnapped you, made you learn a language that we refused to teach you, and told you to go out and make it work on a land that we also told you that you couldn't leave and go nowhere. It gets ridiculous. And now here we are in 2022 reading this report on how everything's going up except wages. Over to the desk.
Oh man. So I just want to reiterate what this study said. Something that Lady L hit on. These two sentences right here. The study found the groups that disproportionately make less than $31,000 annually income are women and people of color. So then, if you are a woman of color, you know, that's that double negative, and you'll most likely make that $30,000 mark. Then it says the study indicated that 50% of women of color in the workplace make less than $15 an hour. It's half. So as a woman of color, that means that you have a 50% chance of making less than $15 an hour. You have a 50, like, you can make it or not.
That's it.
And that's it. That's how thin it is.
But that's the issue. That was why I couldn't necessarily, get certain jobs that I was looking for in Lancaster, because when I walked up in the room, they knew good and well I wasn't taking 14, 13, 12, 15, I wasn't even taking 15. And they knew that, which is why I never got the call back. And I'm going to accept it as that, right? Because my price was too high for them. Sarge.
60% or more of all women of color have hourly earnings under $15 an hour, and that data reflects the full-time workers and includes tip workers and gig workers. All right, so like that's the number, the $15 that measure. That's just like a measure. You know what I mean? We're just holding it there. But the states that are in the dark, where 6% or more are earning less than 15 an hour, it's ridiculous. Pennsylvania is real close. We're right there on the board. We're a shade away.
First of all, I don't know where you're living at in Pennsylvania if you're making $31,200 a year. I don't know where you're living at. You're in a studio somewhere. Like where are you living at for this? Especially if you think you have to pay rent. So a 1-bedroom will run you at least a cool even $1,000 for a 1-bedroom. Here in Pennsylvania, it's gonna run you about $1,000 unless you're living out in farm town somewhere.
But I think that we should. I mean, what's going to happen here? Well, let's get to the comments, and then I'll get to my commentary. Key says, I see some of these corporations advertising $15 plus an hour. What they aren't advertising is that they aren't giving more than part-time hours. That part. Thaddeus, good morning to you, Thaddeus. Key, good morning to you as well. Thaddeus says, if the top 100 American companies raise the income of the majority middle and lower level employees, it would change America's economy greatly. Yeah, it would. The economy would boost because we are a consumer a consumer country.
Oh my
like
goodness!
we
Yes.
consume. So it's just common sense. If people make more,
They'll spend more.
Then they'll consume more. I remember in 10th grade civics class, and my teacher telling us that with capitalism, there always has to be a winner and there always has to be a loser, and that's just what capitalism is. And with that, we're seeing this being exacerbated because over here because they're choosing the black women as the losers, and
right, and then
the
how does
report
that
says,
impact the greater community?
Right.
Those kids, that household.
And the report says the Labor Department said that consumer prices increased 0.8% between January and February, and costs were up 7.9% higher in February. So the money and funds and funding for these black women, for these women of color, they're not even coming to be, with inflation and with all this, new wokeness that these corporations have. Lady Al, let's get you back in on this. Or Sarge.
Yeah, I did have something to add.
Yeah,
I did
go
want
ahead.
to say that, like, of those that are making that wage, among the single parents, most of whom are women, 58% are earning less than the livable wage. And like we wonder why kids are resorting to going out doing things to make their own money. Trying to help out in the family. This is where it starts. This is how it's happening. And other than saying, oh, it's just because there are no dads in the house. There are no dads in the house. It's
Right.
more than just. It was more than just that.
Because
All right.
yeah, go ahead.
You combine that. You have all right. So now there's no father figure in the house. All right, mom's working, but mom's not even making a livable wage. No matter how hard she's working,
Right.
she's not getting paid a livable wage. She's having to work more than 1 or 2 jobs.
Right.
She had more than 2 jobs or something at times. And then what?
Let's think about how far this sets back black women over the period of time in which minimum wage hasn't been raised, right?
Right.
Black women are now the furthest behind. They're single parents, right? Raising kids, making the least amount of money. And people are upset about them getting help.
Right.
They're beaten, they're battered, it's disrespectful, and really, this feels sad to me. We knew, but this feels sad to me that it's documented. It's this brazen, and it's been going on for this long.
And it's intentional.
So, what?
Dr. H, everybody.
Hey, let's go.
You guys, I love the discussion. And, I mean, I think about it like this. Like, sometimes the issues in our society are so large that it just feels like everything's wrong, right? But then you go back and you say, look, okay, well, let's focus on this one thing and what can we do in this one thing, right? So everybody knows a black woman, right? And you got one at work. You know what people don't do at work? Talk about their pay, their salary. And so not knowing that lack of transparency is one of the things that perpetuates wage disparity. One, it's what's at the root of it is discrimination, right? Like, call it critical race theory, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, even there was like I'm preparing this talk, and I was looking at job, even just in getting a call back for a job. Nothing has changed. Like in 50 years, things have not changed. And so over time, whether it's that you're not getting a call back for a job, or if you're not getting a promotion, or that you're getting a promotion but you're not getting a raise, these are just the things. So all of that stuff about, okay, we support Black lives and this, that, and the third, pay a living wage. And not just a living wage, pay people what they're worth. And if you don't know what somebody's worth, look across the same job description. So all of you who work in HR or, HR departments, for the same role, your Black employees should at least be at the median. Say, what's the average? And if they're not, you can say to yourself, if I accept that racism exists and implicit bias exists, and that is not saying that I'm a terrible person or that, as an employer, you're trying to do something terrible to your employees, but just understanding that discrimination affects even people's wages. Then you look and say, let's level up. At least put people at the median for their role. Like, you can't argue if they're doing the same job, it's the role, like, what people are hired under. I mean, because this even happens in medicine. So, yeah.
This really reminds me of this job that I recently applied for. Yes, America. We still apply for jobs even though we're entrepreneurs.
Yeah, some of these jobs got some six figures floating around, and we can't leave that on the table.
I applied for this job. Interviewed a media-based job, and it was for a producer. It was a hybrid producer and then something else. And going through the interview and everything like that, and then they're like, okay, well, what's the expected salary? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, this is news, so it's not going to be over 70,000. So it's like, all right, but the duties with this job, it should be at the very least, because this is a hybrid position and you're asking for a lot of creativity, it should at least be 65. So I was like, okay, well, let me just ask for 63, see where this goes. He was like, oh, well, that's really about $20,000 more than what we were offering.
So that conversation was about 20 minutes longer than it should have been.
Right, you could have led with that, and we just would have just not had this conversation.
But the worst thing was that this position was specifically for a Black or brown person. Specifically because they wanted this person to tell the stories of underrepresented groups in Central PA. So then I'm like, is this paying this low because of the experience that you're asking for, or is it the person? And I really can't think outside of you're offering this level because you don't think that we're worth more. And I look at this story right here.
It also says they don't think our stories are that valuable either.
Exactly. Because now I was willing to take, some kind of, not that kind of sacrifice, but I was willing to take that some kind of sacrifice. But at that price, what kind of experienced journalists are you getting?
Right, you're getting somebody out of college.
Exactly, and then now you're leaving this whole responsibility.
Create and cover the news and the Black voice for.
Right.
Come on, man.
Here's the thing, y'all. Seriously, in this 2022 year of our Lord, I just can't. I just can't anymore with the the performances. And so I think that we have to put ourselves out there for jobs and opportunities, but realistically, we cannot be, taking our time and energy and our talents. And this is one of the things of the Great Resignation. Is like people realize, like, hey, I'm worth more just sitting in my house. I could at least have my peace. And that's worth something to me. Whether or not I can, buy these extra things or go on these vacations, what really matters to me is my friends and family anyway. So y'all can have y'all raggedy job. It's just kind of like we're not here for it anymore.
Yeah.
We're not here for it anymore. So
Find a way to make it.
I think that one of the things is that looking at the jobs, knowing your worth of get on LinkedIn, be on LinkedIn, serious. And I'm talking something that I don't actually do. But it's important, and in some industries, that's how you find opportunities. Yeah. And then mix yourself up with white people, at least to know what's going on. And I've listened to this business coach the other day. It was talking about, whatever with allies. Allies is a passive thing. A person can kind of sit back and be an ally. It's a passive experience. Whereas being an accomplice says, I'm willing to risk something to go on this journey with you. And those are the people, like, if you're kind of looking at in my job, who do I align myself with, or, who's got my back? It's not the person who's going to send you a text message during the meeting or after the meeting. Like, I totally agree with what you're saying. No, speak up. Speak up and say that right now in front of everybody that, that what I'm saying is right, or that, this is an issue, or better yet, you bring it up before I have to. Like, we just I think that we're in a time that we have to hold the people who are saying that they recognize and value Black life, and hold them more accountable than they have been in the past. Because it's not enough to just say it. Now you have to show it with your actions. And I think the energy of 2020 has absolutely died down. People know the right things to say. They're putting opportunities out there. I got hit with the air quotes by my 5-year-old the other day. I was like, what do you mean? And she just said something and put and she.
Yeah, it's kids.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that I'm loving all of the Black girl magic floating around. I don't know about you guys if you've seen it at all, but and Dr. Hamlin talked about this the last time she was on the show, but there was just match week for people going into their residencies and getting placed. And I was so enamored to see all of these beautiful Black ladies floating around getting accepted into various medical programs. Right. And so even shouts out to LGH. They're bringing like 3 or 4 new Black medical professionals on staff here in the city of Lancaster. So, yay. Welcome to the community. Yay. Can't wait to meet you.
Yes. Our class. So there's 13 family medicine residents per year at Lancaster General. We're the top ranked family medicine residency program in the country. And out of those 13 spots, 4 are Black students. So I'm really excited. And part of my job is teaching the residents. And so I've had the pleasure of teaching residents who are out in the community being, family doctors now and across the country for the last 10 years. So it's exciting, and we're really proud. And that this is an example of making a commitment and actually seeing it through and saying, oh yeah, not just, we celebrate diversity. No, it's like we want to reflect the city of Lancaster because that's the population that we're serving. And so how do we do that? And actually showing up, at different, showing up in different ways to show that dedication and that excitement. So
I love that. And it also just gives inspiration. Like when you are able to see somebody who looks like you in a certain position, that's awesome. Like when I was interested in medicine, I had a Black lady doctor who I could sit and talk to and be like, yeah, I want to be a doctor. Even had a whole conversation about getting a DO versus an MD, right? And that whole situation. And so it's important that we get Black women into jobs with security, into jobs with mobility, and into jobs where there is mentorship within the leadership to help them excel, right? Instead of just pretty much casting them off to the side into this economic caste system of poverty, and then finding ways to support us being in that spot, So, don't forget to leave your comments, and I'm going to pass it back over to the desk.
All right, we're going to go to the comments right now. Did you guys read Thaddeus' comments before?
No.
All right, Thaddeus said, if the top 100 American companies raise the income of the majority, middle and lower level employees, it would change America's economy greatly. facts, and like $15 an hour shouldn't be the base minimum wage for everywhere.
Right.
Because $15 an hour, I don't think you can live off that here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right.
It's like we got to start somewhere, but it don't get it twisted. It's not. Is it even $40,000?
No, it's $31,200.
Exactly.
And I don't even think that's taxes.
That's right. So let's see. Next comment says, Corinne says, our kids can't even afford to move out anymore. Employees will not even pay a living wage, or if they do, they only offer part-time. When I was 18, I paid $375 a month in my first place, and now that size apartment would be $1,000. Yeah. Talk says, problem black women up more. Prop black women up more. Key says black women are said to be amongst the most educated, but we are the least paid. All right. Good morning, Ray. Rebecca says you shouldn't take a sacrifice, and the good company will step up and realize you're worth it. Thaddeus also goes on to say the real frustration in our economic climate is our generations have to diversify finances as well as employment between entrepreneurship.
I like that.
Fact.
I like that.
Folks, before we get to our next story, want to let you know that we have a special giveaway, folks. We have a special giveaway for you. As part of the Fulton Theater's Idea Initiative Speaker Series, they will be presenting Lynn Nottage on Sunday, April 3rd. DJ Double O, our guest is outside. Again, let me start that over. As part of the Fulton Theater's Idea Initiative Speaker Series, they will be presenting Lynn Nottage on Sunday, April 3rd. This event is a invitation only, but TCP has not one but 2 tickets for you to attend this lovely, lovely event. Now, what you need to do to get these tickets, only thing you need to do is give us a call. 717-992-5569. Again, that is 717-992-5569. And tell us who Sarge imitates at the end of every show. That's the only thing you have to do to claim your ticket. We are looking for 2 callers to attend this speaker series at Fulton Theater. Again, folks, as part of the Fulton Theater's Idea Initiative Speaker Series, they will be presenting Lynn Nottage on Sunday, April 3rd. This is an invite-only event at the Fulton Theater, but again, like I said, TCP Network will be giving away not 1, but 2 tickets. Only thing you have to do is call up 717-992-5569, 717-992-5569, and tell us who Sarge imitates at the end of every show.
And I just want to say, me is not the wrong answer.
I imitate myself.
I'm myself. All right.
Love it, love it, love it. So, folks, we did promise you a guest today, and our guest is here as DJ Double O prepares our guest to be on screen. We are going to read some this last comment here. Rebecca says, 2-figure per year income, take hourly and double and add a little. $10 an hour equals $20K. And in some cases, that $10 an hour for $20K could be less once you start tying in healthcare and everything like that. My first job as a news reporter, making $20,000 a year. Checks were $664 every 2 weeks. I had health insurance. This is my first job as a news reporter. Had health insurance for 1 month because when that health insurance kicked in, that check was $324. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm 24 and healthy. So
I'll get insurance in my 30s.
Right.
I look at that $20K though, and I think about something like during military times, the enlistment bonuses or re-enlistment bonuses would be like $20K, and you'd be like, yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing tax-free. If you're overseas tax-free, you'd be like, yes. But you think about it, $10 an hour, $20K, It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Like for six extra years.
Yeah.
20,000 divided by 6.
When you realize what you're getting per year.
Like 20,000 divided by 6. Like no, I don't like it. Divide that by 12 months. No. I'm good.
But that initial looks good. But
yeah.
But
can we renegotiate later?
Right. So folks, we have been doing our primary series these last 2 months when we've been having candidates come in, talk to you about their platform. If they are incumbents, they talked to us about the past and everything, and all the great stuff that they have going on. This interview is especially special to myself because I remember visiting Rep Sturla in my middle school days and during the days of the Rites of Passage program. And always admire this man, and I'm actually honored to have him in our studio today. So folks, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome State Rep Michael P. Sturla.
Yeah, let's go.
Love it. So first things first, you probably don't have to tell the people who you are, but we start off with we have a style here. So can you tell the folks who you are?
Yeah. Hi, I'm State Representative Mike Sturla, and I've been around for a while, so a lot of people know me. Some people don't. I'm always. It's fun to be in a store and somebody's like, can I see ID on this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I walk into another store. I'm like, I don't have my ID with me today. Can I write a check? And they go, I think we know where to find you. But I got to tell you, I brought along some swag for you all today.
Oh, appreciate it. Yes.
Some Team Sturla shirts for you guys. And I got to tell you, I have been trying to get on this show for years.
I love it.
Every time I run into Marquise on the street, I'm like, hey, when are you going to, oh, yeah, we got to get you on there. And then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And if I have to have a primary opponent in order to get on the show, it's a small price to pay. I'll gladly take that on. Because at least I get to come on the show.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So Mike, let's talk about the things that you have done here in Lancaster, because you are a staple in this community. So can you hit on some of the things that you have done over your career?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple things. Start out. I'll go back 30 plus years when we passed the Children's Health Insurance Program. I was a co-sponsor of that original bill. That was the first state in the nation that had ever done anything like that. That became a model for other states. Finally, when enough states had it, the federal government picked it up and did that. And so, we were the first here. We did it because we knew that there was a need to get health insurance for kids. I have still, to this day, fought to try and change a little bit the way we do it because, with Medicaid, there's a presumptive eligibility. If you walk into the hospital and you say, hey, I don't have any insurance, and they treat you, they say, would you have qualified for Medicaid had you signed up beforehand? And if you did, they'll go back 60 days and pay for your bills back 60 days so that you're at least covered for that insurance. So it encourages everybody to show up and get health care. The Children's Health Insurance Program does not have presumptive eligibility. And what I'm told is because it's an insurance product. And I'm like, okay, how about if we make it an entitlement? Because what we're doing is somebody's kid gets sick, they haven't signed them up, and they say, now I can't take my kid in until I get him signed up first. That's not the way to do health care. The way to do health care is to go get them healthy and worry about how you pay for it later. And so that's one of the things I've been trying to do. But, again, you're pushing against the bureaucracy that says, hey, we have the best program in the country. We do. I think it can still be better. So, I keep pushing. But So that's one of the things. But there was that. There's the pharmaceutical assistance contract for the elderly. There's, I have a son that is on the autism spectrum, and we were able to get dollars put in the budget in a line item every year for the Center for Autism here in Lancaster County, which serves all of central Pennsylvania. But any family that has any person that's affected by autism has probably been to that center at one point in time or another, if not still there and seeing people. So, there's things like that. When I first got elected, there was 1 million square feet of vacant space in downtown Lancaster. Wow. Now, that's not the entirety of the city of Lancaster. That's just downtown. That's about the equivalent of 6 square blocks.
Okay.
So there were storefronts that had a nice, thing in the storefront, but everything behind it was vacant. And the second floors were vacant, and the third floors were vacant. And, there was, at the time, a couple hundred houses in the city that had been on the market for more than 90 days. And we had a crisis because people couldn't sell their houses in the city of Lancaster because there weren't many people that wanted to live here. And so we worked to try and do the economic development side of it. Now try and find a house that stays on the market for, 90 hours, let alone 90 days, And so our success has bred the fact that people want to live here. And so now there's a housing shortage. And so we've worked on that. We've created a whole lot of new housing in the city of Lancaster. If you look at like the Umbrella Works and things like that, they're on their second iteration. We actually got funding for them. They did that, and 30 years later, they said we need to do this again because these are still in good enough shape that we just need to freshen them up and do a rehab on them. That's happened with multiple housing units throughout the 96 legislative district. So we've done economic development. We've done housing. Every bridge that comes into town got rebuilt in the last 25 years. And some of those were, bad configurations, and you had a hard left turn when you came in on the bridge, and those kind of things. And so we've done that. In terms of education funding, when I first got there was no funding formula.
Wow.
And literally 10 years ago, we were considered the worst state in the nation in terms of funding because we didn't have a funding formula. And so there were some kids that were getting $10,000 a year spent on them and others that were getting $25,000 a year spent on them.
Wow.
And so there was actually a lawsuit years ago that the school districts had, and they said, this is unfair. And the court said, you have no way of proving that it's unfair. That's up to the legislature to decide. And it was like, well, some kids are getting 10,000, others are getting 15, and they're like, yeah, but 10,000 might be adequate. Who knows? You have no measure for that. So we set about, back during the Rendell administration, we set about establishing what adequacy was. And we said, every kid needs at least this amount spent on them or it's inadequate. You can't possibly educate a kid for less than this. You can't provide them with books or computers or a teacher or a janitor in the school or, those kinds of things. So we set about doing that. And then the legislature said, well, yeah, but now Rendell's not in, and Tom Corbett came in, and he cut $1 billion from the education budget. And we laid off 20,000 teachers.
Wow.
And, so it's like, okay, well, now we're back to square one again. We finally got a vote to say we're going to do an education funding commission. We had a group that looked at that. I was on that committee, or that commission, and we established a fair funding formula, which by the people that evaluate these things nationwide, that look at what state's fair and what isn't, our funding formula is one of the better ones in the nation right now.
Right.
The only problem is we don't push all the money through it. So we were pushing $5 billion through what was considered the most unfair system. And then we said, okay, we got this great new funding formula, but we're only going to push new money through it. Well, to date, we've put about $1.5 billion into that new funding formula. But that still means that $5 billion is going to the most unfair formula, and $1.5 billion is going to a fair formula.
Wow.
And so I've worked to try and say, how can we correct that? We did it a little bit last year. We put $200 million to correct some of the problems that were going on beforehand. This year, the governor's proposed to do $300 million. I actually have a proposal to do like $750 million to correct the problem. And most of that money would go to school districts like School District of Lancaster, Columbia, Philadelphia. Now people are like, well, that's all the Democratic districts. Those are the ones that are underfunded.
Wow.
I mean,
Surprise.
like look, the Republicans have been in control of the legislature for 25 of the last 30 years in the House and 30 of the last 30 years in the Senate.
Wow.
So whether you had a Democratic governor or a Republican governor, you still had to deal with a Republican House and Senate
Right.
that said, we're going to do what we want to, and unless you can get enough votes to convince Republicans to switch out of their party, that's just not going to happen. So, so we were able to do things like that. But if I can, I brought this along because a couple of months ago, and this is one of those things that every once in a while you get one of these. I got a letter from somebody that said, "Dear Representative Sturla," and this has been edited a little bit because I don't want to reveal who the person was, but it says, "Respectfully, I ask, where have you been the past couple of years? Why were you not present Sunday night at the lighting of the menorah? Where were you during the summer of BLM protests during COVID, by no means over? What do you actually represent, and how do you understand your representation of your constituency? We don't know anymore." 3 decades is a long time, long enough for folks that are characterizing your tenure as a typical career politician. Do you wish to be that? Do you wish that to be your legacy? Finally, will you consider not running? Your stepping down would be a gracious gesture for the old order giving way to the new. Many of us believe it's time. With deep gratitude and respect for all you've done for us, and then they signed it. Now, that's pretty hurts.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, so I'm like, dang, okay.
That was a sharp
Oh,
letter.
man, okay. So I contemplated it for a couple days, and I wrote back, and so here's my response. I said, "Thank you for contacting me and expressing your concerns. It gives me the opportunity to correct some obvious misconceptions that you harbor concerning my whereabouts and work performance. I'm not sure of the source of your information, but with your permission, I can add you to my regular email list, and I'll tell anybody just, look on my website. You can get on my email list, and we'll send you regular updates." So it says it tells what I'm doing, and keeps you apprised of what's happening. So in your first inquiry, where have you been the past couple of years? And I said I could write a book, but in a sentence or two, dealing with a pandemic. Up until the widespread issuance of vaccine, most of my days were spent on Zoom calls with hospital systems concerning strategies to battle surges, constituents trying to navigate a severely overburdened unemployment compensation system, which I will say we helped over 1,200 constituents file their unemployment claims. We helped over 1,000 people with doing the property tax and rent rebate. Even though our office was closed, we were working remotely, so nobody could see us. They drove by, and we had an office closed by state mandate. Didn't mean we weren't working.
Right.
So I said, and I was also working with state agencies trying to coordinate contact tracing, business owners in tears concerning mandated shutdowns, and the legislative sessions fighting back Republican attempts to overturn any and every executive order issued by Governor Wolf. At the same time, I was working with the PLCB and the Restaurant Association and the Lancaster Alliance to ensure that regulations concerning alcohol sales at restaurants and bars would be allowed in outdoor spaces not originally included as part of those premises license. I have been told by multiple owners that they would not have survived without those changes, and the same goes for constituents we were able to do the unemployment claims for. Not exactly photo op or Twitter feed material, but important work. Post-vaccine, I picked up where I left off in several areas. After working with Lancaster General Hospital and multiple local agencies regarding adverse childhood experiences, and I'll talk about a little bit about that later, I was successful in encouraging the governor to issue an executive order declaring PA a trauma-informed state, which opened up opportunities for training and counseling. I've since been able to work in a bipartisan manner with colleagues on the Basic Education Funding Commission to look at including ACEs, as they're called, in the factor in the funding formula. That focus continues as a strategy to positively impact children's lives in Pennsylvania while ultimately saving tax dollars on incarceration, drug and alcohol treatment, remedial education, chronic illness, and abuse. Working across the aisle with my Republican counterpart on the Urban Affairs Committee, we were able to get an additional $50 million for PHFA, that's the housing organization in the state, placed in last year's budget, which then allowed projects that were already approved, like HDC's proposal for housing in the old St. Joe's Hospital, to move forward in spite of increased material costs due to supply chain disruptions. I'm also working with the County Commissioners Association and the PA Municipal League on a dedicated funding source that will benefit municipalities like Lancaster that are home to a large percentage of tax-exempt properties. In my spare time, I oversaw 2 successful COVID-free back-to-school events where we were able to supply about 2,000 students with backpacks, shoes, uniforms, school supplies, and books for free. When we hold that event in person, the students also get a Barnstormers game, a meal, a haircut or braiding, info on community services, eye screenings, face painting, and much more. And I invited them to join the hundreds of volunteers that we have. That we do that every year. This year, we hope to be back in full swing, and so we'll be out at Clipper Stadium, and I will encourage everybody. We're doing it in early August, so kids have a chance to get all their stuff before they're going to school. It's not like the day before or anything like that, but it is great to do that. I also secured capital improvement funding for the new library, the Thaddeus Stevens College, the Fulton, and the Tech Centro, to name a few. I could go on, but hopefully you get the idea. As to your next question, why were you not present at the Sunday at the menorah lighting? My answer is actually I was there for the entire ceremony. When I arrived, there was already a fairly sizable crowd present, and I chose to simply take my place in the crowd about 4 rows back and let others fill in behind me, as opposed to pushing my way to the front in the hope of being recognized. When I spoke with Rabbi Paskov after the ceremony, he expressed regret in not knowing that I was there so he could mention my name. I replied that I was not there to gain recognition. I was there to support the Jewish community in Lancaster. Next question, where were you during the summer of BML protests? During COVID, by no means over, they said. I said, remember, this was pre-vaccine, and I was where any sane, rational person who has a wife with a compromised immune system and new grandkids would have been, not in a crowd with shouting, unmasked participants. I did, however, write a widely publicized op-ed piece on the issue, and I can get you a copy of that, or I'll get you there's a website link to it, which I won't go into here because it's a lot of backslashes and things like that.
Understood.
But, where I basically talked about the urgency of what we needed to do. So next, what do you actually represent, and how do you represent your constituency? We don't know anymore. What I represent is an experienced public servant that knows how to get things done in spite of being in the minority. Who I represent, even though you didn't ask that, is the citizens of the 96th District, regardless of race, religion, economic status, gender, sexual preference, or political affiliation. How I represent them is by using my experience to understand that factual information delivered persistently in a non-threatening manner gets results for them. In my decades-long experience, I have never seen a podium-pounding rhetorical speech convince anyone to change their mind on an issue. In fact, quite the contrary. And Marquise, you know this from your time there. There are people that would get up and rant and rave, and everybody would be like, okay, well, that's too bad. You know, the more they ranted and raved, the more people said, I'm not voting with them come hell or high water, you know. And so it says, I say, you know, that the deliverer of the pontification may feel better, mostly about themselves, but that, to me, is not success. Hopefully you know a little more about me now. Finally, I will respond to your characterization as a whole. For 3 decades is a long time. So is 10 years. But experience and effectiveness and hard work are also hard commodities to come by, and I've been able to use all 3 for the betterment of Lancaster. Many people characterize me as a career politician when I won my 3rd term as a Democrat in Lancaster County, because I was the first person that had ever done that. And so they're like, well, there he is. See, he's a career politician. So my guess is that some of those same people say the same thing now, in addition to those with little or no experience that view experience as something blocking their right to ascension. My legacy will always rest with the perception of others, but given that I am daily humbled by the more than goodly number of constituents that thank me for what I've done for them personally or the community as a whole, I'll continue to sleep well at night. And if waking up every day and pushing myself and those around me to continue to strive to make Lancaster a better place to live for everyone, not for my own personal accolades, but for the constituents I serve, if that makes me old, well, then so be it. Because it's not about me, it's about the constituents I serve. Finally, it took a few days to respond to your inquiry because of the, yeah, but what have you done for me lately category. I was busy. To highlight a few of this week's activities. Now remember, I sent this on a Wednesday. Okay, to highlight a few of this week's activities. I spent time with the head of the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, Robin Weisman, and her staff, discussing the best ways for them to leverage private capital to substantially increase investment in affordable housing using federal COVID relief dollars. An equal amount of time was spent with private and not-for-profit developers to ensure that they could actually be able to produce that housing statewide, including right here in Lancaster. I also had my first meeting with staff to coordinate meeting plans for the 2022 back-to-school giveaway. Yes, coordinating that many donors and volunteers and supplies really does take 8 months of work and planning. I also spoke with the Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors about several issues that impact their workforce, which I suggested they weigh in on, including fair funding for schools, the impacts of challenges to Roe versus Wade on women in the workforce, daycare funding, and mandatory mask and vaccine requirements in the workplace. I worked with my staff on language on legislation that I've introduced that to establish a dedicated funding source for municipalities, plus a statewide blight database that can serve as a tool to help municipalities deal with deadbeat landlords and property owners. I met with Pennsylvania College of Art and Design to discuss their needs to accommodate growth and establish student housing. I met with Vision Corps to discuss the impacts COVID is having on the operations and their clients. I spoke with the Statewide Housing Alliance Conference about economic development and some of the tools that the state has to offer them. I participated in a meeting with the governor to discuss budget priorities in the upcoming 2022-23 state budget. I worked with my colleagues on the Chesapeake Bay Commission from Pennsylvania and Maryland, as well as the Pennsylvania DEP, to establish a potential framework whereby Maryland could actually help PA mitigate pollution that ultimately ends up in Maryland. I also attended another menorah lighting. I will note that no other local official at any level was at any of those meetings, nor was any press. Now, I can spend, you see how much time I just spent explaining all this stuff.
Yeah.
It also took me a couple hours to write this. I can spend 3 hours out of my day saying, here's what I did, and going around beating my chest. Or I can actually spend another 3 hours doing more of what I did. And that's really sort of what my, there's a part of me that likes campaigns because I get an opportunity to explain what I've been doing. But there's also a part of me that's like, can I just get back to doing my job?
Right.
So, anyway.
Right. All right. Well, we gotta do something to pay the bills real quick. Rep Sturla will be right back with some more questions. I know that Sarge and Lady L have some questions. So I want to let you all know that TCP in the morning is brought to you by Patients Are Waiting, our Black lady doctors. They are eliminating health disparities by increasing diversity in medicine with 3 areas of focus. Increasing the pipeline of minority clinicians, making the pipeline of minority clinicians less leaky, and supporting minority clinicians in practice. And also have a diversifying doula initiative where they are supporting expectant mothers and women of color. What else do they do, Lady L?
Oh my goodness, they also have the Pipeline to Dreams program where they mentor high school juniors and seniors. I believe it is 6 weeks, and they come from all across the tri-state area. I'm talking Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, even some from Dr. Hamlin's home state of New York. They come out right now. It's currently all digital, but the students are exposed to a variety of career opportunities in a medical field, from optometry to neurology to surgery. And we want to thank Dr. Hamlin and the team over at Patients Are Waiting for creating diversity in medicine. Oh, all right. So we're going to take it and go to some questions right now.
Yes, we got some
All right, we got a couple questions. I've been taking notes. So let's take it back a little bit. Rebecca wants to know, she's out in Lancaster County. She wants to know, what are your immediate plans to help with the homeless situation?
Yeah, well, we've done several things. One, when I first got elected, I was talking to the school district, and they were telling me about how many homeless students they have. And in a year's time, the school district of Lancaster serves 1,000 homeless students. Now, they got 11 or 12,000 students. That's a big chunk. Now, it's not 1,000 at one time. It's 300, but it's a moving target. When you find one of them in the home, somebody else becomes homeless. And so I raised this issue with my colleagues, who all said, yeah, it's a shame you have that problem in Lancaster County, or in Lancaster City. And I was like, this is not just the Lancaster City problem, because when somebody becomes homeless in, Columbia or in Ephrata or in New Holland or in Quarryville, they go to the nearest homeless shelter. And guess what? The only homeless shelters are in the county are in Lancaster City. And so Lancaster City becomes the place where every homeless person goes, because that's the only place they can get services. Wow. And so, to which some of my colleagues said, yeah, it's a shame you have that problem in Lancaster City. And I was like, do you understand we have this problem in Lancaster County.
Right.
And so what we did was we worked with the county, and to their credit, the county stepped up and said, you're right, this is not just a city issue. And started funding and with the concept that we were going to make sure that there was no person that was without a home in Lancaster County. Now, with the success of some of those programs means that people say, hey, if I go to Lancaster County, I can find a home, because I can't find a home where I'm at. And so you got to watch it. There's a little bit too much, like, oh, well, then I'll go there. And now we continue to fuel the homeless program or homeless situation. But they've done a relatively decent job. There's now a homeless shelter up in Elizabethtown. There's a parking lot out in the Peckway School District where people can go park and live in their cars safely, and the police know that they patrol it to make sure that those people aren't messed with and things like that. But it is a safe haven for them to at least live out of their car so that they're not living in an unsafe situation. So that's not the end all to the answer. But, at some point in time, what we need to do is figure out a way to make sure that these people are housed and have medical attention, and because ultimately that costs less than dealing with their issues on the street.
All right, we're going to move to the next question. Rebecca says, Thaddeus says, are there any mentorship programs or plans to create programs that would build political proteges that coming up?
I don't know of any mentorship programs. We do. We get interns in our office every year.
I'm going to go to the next question. What is your stance on the fair funding formula? Specifically, if a school has been given $10K and the formula says it should be given only $6K, should the money be taken away or should they get it because they always have?
Well, here's the thing, and that's what's referred to as hold harmless. So when I refer to that first $5 billion, it was the unfair system. We could not get an agreement in the legislature to say all the $5 billion that we were already putting into education should get run through the funding formula. And here's the reason why. When you did that, there were 350 school districts that got less money and 150 districts that got more money. Now, if you can count the votes on that, you're not going to get that to pass because while people said, well, that's the right thing to do, yes, it is, but there's no legislator that's going to go home and say, I cut funding for my school district because it was the right thing to do. It's just not going to happen. And so what I've been trying to do is to say, you know what? In one sense, even those ones that got $10,000, and if you ran all the money through the funding formula, should have only gotten $6,000. Guess what? They should have gotten $15,000 because the state overall doesn't fund basic education the way we should. We're funding it at about 30%, somewhere in that neighborhood. We should be funding it at least 50% of the cost of education. We don't even come close to that. So when somebody says, well, they're getting more than they should, are they getting 50% of the funding that they spend or not? And if they're not, then I don't think they're getting too much. But what I want to do is, this isn't about taking away from somebody that's actually getting some money. It's how do we get money to the people that aren't getting the money?
Right.
And, in Lancaster County, for example, and this is always a surprise to people, Conestoga Valley, any of you from Lancaster County know that Conestoga Valley always seemed like, hey, that's a pretty decent school district, because their funding was locked in before they started growing, and when it was just a sort of a wealthy suburban area, they get about 27% of what they should from the state.
Wow.
And you go, well, but they're doing okay. Yeah, they're doing okay because they got a high tax base and they got things like that. But they're spending less per pupil than what is considered adequate.
Oh, wow.
Sheesh.
So you go, gee, I didn't know that. I always thought that was a good school. Well, it's a good school because they have a nice gym, they have a great field, those are the outward things that people see that they judge a school by.
Right.
And you know what? They get some kids into good schools, they get, but for the average kid that's going there, they're getting shortchanged. And they're getting shortchanged by the state, not the locals. And so what we have to do is figure out, and this is the thing that I've been working on, is to say, how can we fix that $5 billion portion of this and then start running all the money through, and by the way, increase it dramatically. I mean, the lawsuit that's at the state right now before the Supreme Court that the school district of Lancaster is involved with and some other schools, I have to believe that they're going to win because they sued the governor and the Department of Education. The governor and the Department of Education came in and said, yep, in their defense, they said, yep, they're right. It's like, okay, so the people you're suing said, you're right, we should be funding you.
That's insane.
The only people that protested it, the only people that put up an argument against the school districts was the Republican House and Senate caucuses. They used taxpayer dollars to fight school districts trying to get more money. I mean, that to me is just insane.
Right.
You know, and so what we need to do is get this focus shifted to how do we actually get more funding to schools instead of how do we take it away from some and give it to others? Because then you're just fighting with each other about, you know, for a limited pie. I want to grow the pie.
Absolutely. Let's bring in our black lady doctor into this conversation. Dr. Hamlin, please.
So I love the discussion about the funding of education, and then the point that you made about that we're funding education too little. I mean, there's a lot of problems, right? But we can't say, like, how can we boil the ocean, and the specific things. So one of the questions, just staying on this school vein, because even what happens in our schools has a direct impact on what happens in our society. What are, like, the concrete steps, let's say, outside of the legal fights? Like, what are some new things that you see as far as your future vision for education in the state?
Yeah. Well, first off, we need to at least remotely equitably fund things. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get, I said Conestoga Valley's at like the 25, 27%, you know, of what they should get. I'm trying to get every school district at least to 85% of what they would get if we ran all the money through the funding formula. Because, you know, people say to me, well, I mean, what if your funding formula is off by a little bit? I'll give it. Like, it's one of the better ones, but because I helped write the thing, I know that there's 2 or 3 factors that I can go tweak in that formula, and I can throw numbers off by 10%. So, you know what? I'll give you that. But let's get everybody to 85% instead of having people at 50% of the funding. School District of Philadelphia would get $400 million a year more if we funded them at 100%.
Wow.
I mean, now people go, well, what would they do with $400 million? Well, they wouldn't have class sizes that have 27 kids. They wouldn't have buildings that had asbestos and, you know, roofs falling down and things like that. They would, you know, and this was an argument we made back during the Corbett administration when he made those cuts to education. It was like, you know, do you understand what $1,000 per student means? That's $25,000 per year in a classroom. $25,000 is a boatload of money per classroom. And that's the kind of cuts that we're going on. Mm-hmm. So part of this is getting that funding in. But then, in addition to that, I mean, we also, when we look at how the funding is right now and what we're trying to correct, there's actually been a racial bias for years. Mm-hmm. There's I think 5 school districts that are majority minority that are actually funded at 100% or above of what we would get if we split all the money up. And then every other school district that's majority minority is underfunded. So I mean, it's like, okay, you know, I really think that if this lawsuit isn't successful that the school districts did, I think there's a civil liberties lawsuit that can be had on some of this stuff. But to your question about, like, so what do I see moving forward with education? Look, first off, I think we need to make sure that we have we need to expand early childhood education.
Yeah.
That is the least expensive and most effective education we can do. We know that if kids can read and write and do basic arithmetic by the time that they're in 3rd grade, that they become lifelong learners. They can have a bad teacher one year and it's okay because they can read. They can look in, open their math book and figure something out. They can do. If they can't do that by the time they're in 3rd grade, they're in remedial programs the rest of their lives. And so, first thing we need to do is make sure that we adequately fund early childhood education. You know, the mandated age for going to school in Pennsylvania for years was 8. Like you know, you had to be you could keep your kid out of school till they were 8. I would really like kids to be in programs when they're 3 and 4, and you know, starting to socialize them to understand what learning is and how we learn and things like that. So that's part of it. Then when you go K through 12, I mean, we need to make sure that there's every opportunity available for kids, and that those opportunities are not like, well, that school over there has computers and this school over here is still working with a mimeograph machine, you know, and you know, and then beyond that, look. The only jobs I know right now that you can do with just a high school education is maybe be a greeter at Walmart. I mean, every other job there is requires some sort of training, whether it's technical training, you have to be certified in at least a computer program, you have to be able to do something. And not all of that can get taught in the high schools. So I really think that what we need to start doing is, instead of looking at K through 12, we need to say that at least the first 2 years of any kind of college or technical education is paid for also, just like we do every other public education. If some kid wants to, go to Harvard, great. You know what? We'll still pay your first 2 years, but your last 2 years are on you, and you're paying at Harvard. If you're going to technical school, we're going to pay for that, because ultimately that trained workforce, if we don't, we're spending billions of dollars every year training kids that have come out of high school but don't know how to do the job that they're trying to apply for. And so you got to have some of that happens to fulfill kids and people. And then beyond that, there's no job anymore where you can say, yep, I stopped learning when I got done with high school, or I stopped learning when I got done with college, and I've never improved my skills since then. I mean, there's constant, going back and getting retraining, recertified, doing those kind of things. That, if you don't do that, the people will die on the vine. So part of what we need to do is we need to start to understand that this is not only a basic thing that's necessary for businesses to operate, it's a basic thing for people to be able to keep a job.
All right, Representative Sturla.
Yeah.
We have another question from Jesse White out in Lancaster County. He says, your opponent, Dana Hemp Gulick, said on this show that she's the best candidate to win against the Republicans in the fall because she's run successfully in Manheim Township twice now. How do you respond to that, and why are you the best candidate to beat the Republicans?
Well, I don't like to talk about my opponent much, but my opponent lost Manheim Township 2 times. Now, I guess you can say they ran, and if you call running a success, but they got beat by the Republican that was there, and not just in the areas that are outside of Manheim Township, which were considered more Republican. They got beat in Manheim Township. And so, look, I've run in races. When I first ran, the first 5 times I ran, I was considered one of the top most contested seats in the state. I ran in a district that did not have a majority of Democrats. People are like, no, Lancaster's always been Democratic. No, it wasn't. For 30 years prior to me, there was not a Democrat there. I ran and won. We had a mayor who was Democrat. We actually had city council members who were Democrat. And a couple years later, a Republican won the mayor's seat. There were Republicans that had won the city council. So, I mean, I have experience in working in a situation where, whether it's a Republican governor, whether it's a Republican mayor, whether it's a Republican city council, or whether it's Democrats, I've been able to work with all of them to actually get things accomplished. I mean, part of this is, and this is where, people are like, well, you've been around. Yeah, and that experience actually does matter. For anybody that says experience doesn't matter, I mean, one of the things I look forward to doing is we're going to have a second Democratic seat in Lancaster. But it's the 96th is not a slam dunk. It's a 47% Democratic district. Somebody's got to go out and win that. I've had the experience of winning those kinds of seats. But I also look forward to, for the last 30 years, I've been trying to get a second Democratic seat so that I had somebody to go to Harrisburg with. And so, whether Izzy wins that seat or whether Janet wins that other seat, I'm looking forward to working with them and saying, like, look, I'm not going to be there for another 30 years after that. But I at least it would be nice, when you talked about mentoring, it would be really nice to be able to say, hey, you're sitting next to me on the floor of the House. Let me explain what's going on over here, because that's a procedure that you've never run into before. I mean, when somebody tries to bifurcate an amendment, what does that mean? Well, guess what? I know what that means. I've seen it happen, 10 times in my 30 years. What happens when they call a previous question? Why is that happening? What's this doing over here? What's that? I would love to have the opportunity to say, let's work you know what? You need a grant? Let me tell you where to go find that grant. Let me tell you the person to call. So you don't have to spend 3 days trying to figure out which department you're going to call, let alone who you're going to talk to there. I'm going to tell you who to talk to that can either say yes or no on that grant today. A good example of that was And this wasn't even in my district. This is out in Manheim Township. You know the parallel road that runs along Route 30. If any of you ever pulled up there where the Oregon Pike used to turn off as the last exit before you get up onto the bypass. One day I'm sitting there, 5 traffic lights till I get through to where I wanted to go. Because all the traffic that was turning left only had a really short time period to turn left, and it was backing up all the people that wanted to go straight. So I took a picture of the sign and the shoulder of the road, because there's plenty of room for a turn lane there. And I sent it to the district leader or the district officer of PennDOT that is in charge of that. And I said, we can alleviate a lot of traffic here. I just sat through 5 lights. All you need to do is put a turn lane in here, and the right-of-way is already here. Within a year, I didn't pass any legislation to get it done. I called one person. Within a year, there was a turn lane there. You don't stop at that. You don't have to wait for more than one traffic light anymore. And so that's not because I'm the greatest guy in the world. It's because I have the experience to know where to go. I would like to share all that experience with somebody, and that's hard to do if you're not in office to share it with people.
I'm curious about that. Like, so in my mind, I say, wow, that's great. And it's great that it happens, but it happens because of access and experience. And so I wonder about, like, once you brought it up, had it been brought up before and it was never heard, or just, I'm just thinking about, like, that example is great. And I wonder about how we can, like, how do you tap into that in more ways? And so I just think one is just, what is the best way when people observe things like that or things that are obviously wrong? How should they then get that information to your office or to their?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, a good portion of what we do is people calling and saying, I've got this issue. And there are several ways we can solve that. One, we can say, oh, yeah, we know how to do that. I mean, I've had people call my office and said, I can't get through to unemployment. I called my legislator, and they said to call you because you've been successful at this. And we would help people fill out their unemployment compensation and got it fixed. I had a woman call me the other day. She said, I've been working for 2 years to get my unemployment. I haven't gotten it yet. I never thought, but, you know, is there anything you could do? And I said, yeah, we processed like 1,200 of these. Within 2 days, she had her 2 years back unemployment. And she said, my God, you just lifted 50,000 pounds off of me because I've been struggling for 2 years to try and figure out how I was going to make ends meet. And now I don't have to do that anymore. Again, that's because I've been there long enough to know who to call to say, can you move that piece of paperwork from the bottom of the pile up to the top? And look, so sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's, you know what, there's nothing that can be done. I mean, I've had some people that say, you know, I need you to call the judge and get something done. I can't do that. I can't call judges. That you know, so there's some things I can't do, but there's some things also that if we can't fix it, if we don't know how to fix it because the mechanism isn't there, that's when I said about saying, okay, well, let's change the law. Let's do something over here. Let's and sometimes that doesn't require even a piece of legislation. Sometimes it is inserting language into a code bill that's getting passed when we do the budget. And, you know, Marquise knows they're like 300-page bills.
Yep.
You can if you put one line item in there or one line in there that changes a little bit of language of the way you tweak something, I don't have, there's no bill that has my name on it, but guess what? We got something accomplished. Right. And so sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's calling an agency and saying, why are you doing this? And they go, well, that's the regs. And I go, how are you interpreting your own regulations? Like, can you do this? Oh, well, we never thought about that. Yeah, we could probably do that. I'm like, okay, good, let's do that. So again, it is, and I hearken back to, I was educated as an architect. And I always say to people, while it taught me how to design and do those kind of things, what it really taught me was how to solve problems. Because sometimes somebody would come to you and say, I need you to build me a building. And the answer was, you really don't need a building. What you need is a different manufacturing process, or what you need is something else. So the idea was, how do you solve a problem? And so as I look at this and go, that was great training for me to say, how do I solve a problem? And I started a construction business. I had never been a contractor before. I got out of architecture school. I said, I know how to design, but I don't know how to build. Every job we would get, I'd be like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this, right? And I would sit and study at night and learn, like, okay, what are we going to be doing tomorrow? How am I going to do that? What am I going to do? That kind of experience transfers over into, okay, how do I solve this problem for somebody else? I've never experienced that problem before. How do I fix it? How do I make it happen? And more often than not, we're successful in figuring out how to accomplish that. But again, some of that, the experience involved is just, it's not that somebody else can't figure that out. It's that after 30 years, I know the shortcuts. So I can get more done for more people in a shorter period of time, and
that takes me to my next question.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so you've been in office for 31 years, right?
Yeah.
What keeps you still motivated? What keeps you going when you have people who say, "Hey, you should pass the torch"? Why do you still keep fighting, still keep sticking with it? What's pushing you to run
Yeah.
right now?
Well, I'll harken back when I had a construction company and I got involved in the legislature. I was working 60 hours a week, and I was like, so I'll work 40 hours a week as a legislator. I'll work 20 hours a week in my construction company. My brother will be there full time. He works 60 hours a week. So between the two of us, we'll have 80 hours a weekend. Not a bad deal. And after about 6 months, he said, when are we ever going to see you in the office again? Because like you're spending 80 hours a week on your legislative business. And I was like, yeah, and we ended up closing our business, and he went to work for somebody else, making more money than we were. But there was a point where the reason I even got involved in the legislature at all was that I was at a point in our construction business where I knew that I had learned as much as I needed to know if I wanted to go be a successful architect. And so I was sort of like, there was a day I woke up and said, like, I don't need to be doing this anymore. And I lost interest in it. In 31 years, I've never woken up in the morning and gone, yeah, not interested in doing this anymore. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night and go, that's how I could fund that school over there, because we could do this and I could get that. And that's the kind of stuff that it's literally like in my subconscious that's what I'm doing. And my wife is like, that's great, except, like, how comes every, 24 hours a day you're thinking about that stuff? I'm like, I can't get it out of my head, So, I mean, part of this is, look, that I hope that the day never comes, because I'd like to retire just because it's like, hey, time for me to go. But if the day ever comes when I wake up and go, yeah, just not interested in helping people or fixing that problem or correcting the education. I mean, the education funding formula is a classic example. That's something that I've been working on for 15 years, and it couldn't have moved any faster than it did because we passed legislation to establish a commission. The commission met for a year and a half. We spent another half a year producing a report. We did, I can't. I would love to have that happen in a day. It happened over a 2-year period. Well, then that was one step. What's the next step? And so some of this is, if I ever wake up and go, yeah, just not interested in this anymore. Heck, I'll resign midterm. But that hasn't happened in 31 years. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna be like, okay, I just I got other things I want to do, and there are other things I want to do. I got grandkids now, and I tell you what, they tug at you,
I believe it. So we have one more question from the audience. They ask any programs for the support of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah, and I sit on the LGBTQ caucus, and we are constantly working to try and improve the lives of the LGBTQ community. What I will tell you is, we get rebuffed every time by the Republicans that we try and do something. When we try, like in the state of Pennsylvania, it is still legal for somebody to fire you because you're part of the LGBTQ community. Wow. That to me is just outrageous. You're allowed, two people can get married, gay or lesbian, they can get married. And if the next day one of them takes a picture of their wedding and sets it on their desk, their boss can fire them. Really? Like, under what circumstances does that make any sense? But we can't get that through the legislature because the Republicans won't even allow the bill to run, And, try as we might, you try and amend things, they say it's not germane, they kick it off the floor, they can't, like, at some point in time, I think we've got to understand that, I was reading an article the other day, talked about the indigenous Americans recognized 5 genders.
Oh, wow.
And it was only when the puritanical, English came over and started taking over America that we're like, nope, there's a man and a woman, and they do it missionary style, and that like this is not the way the world has been forever,
Right.
and there's some people that just want to make sure it stays within those gates,
Absolutely. So we are going to put a pin in it right there, folks. We are coming up on that 10 o'clock hour. We want to thank again Representative Sturla for coming in. Yes. Wonderful. Folks, again, we will keep on having these conversations with the candidates. We encourage you all. If we couldn't get to your comment today, we encourage you all to reach out. They have all said that they will respond. We heard here first. Mike do a real in time response. So on that note, we are going to end the program. But before we do, want to kick it on over to our Black Lady Doctor to talk about all the exciting things happening with Patients Are Waiting.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so great to be back in the studio.
Yes, glad to have you back.
We always love to be here, and all of the COVID concerns. It's like one of the things that COVID has done is really made it where health and preventative care and access to health care and information is on the forefront of our collective consciousness. And so this Saturday is the health fair at Brightside Opportunity Center.
Hey.
Patients Are Waiting will be there providing COVID vaccination to anyone who wants it, anyone who stays long enough at our table. We're going to vax that thing up. So we'll be happy to see you. And even if you just have questions or want to get some information. And then we're continuing with our high school program. And so we'll continue to share for our research expo. So if you want to see 11th and 12th graders who've been working with us in action, addressing or proposing their questions of how they want to make medicine better, you will see them on April 23rd at our virtual research expo. And then next week, Wednesday, we're going to be discussing our What the Health book club choice for this month, which is Hunger by Roxane Gay. And it's a really great memoir. So if you haven't read it already, you can grab it on audiobook as well, or just come to the discussion on Wednesday. Our Health Equity Book Club meets the last Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. on Zoom. So thanks so much again, and I will see you next week.
All right, Lady L.
Hey. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. We are so glad that you were able to start your day with us. Hey, don't forget, guess what today is? It is TCP in the Morning's birthday. Yes, it is TCP in the Morning's birthday. But it is also mine and Quiet Storm's 9-year wedding anniversary.
9 years.
9 years. 9 years, 3 more to go.
And then I'm out. It's a lot of time.
Well, the only way out of this
is in a body bag.
Tell him. Tell him, Lady L. Tell him, Lady L. Tell him. Tell him. It is death doing us part. Right. And that's it.
The only way out of this is a pine box.
Now, if you want me to put you there, we can make arrangements.
Well, happy anniversary.
Right. Happy anniversary.
Love you.
Love you.
Put it in the coffin.
Love you to death. Literally.
Yes, guys, again, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, listen, this weekend is going to be beautiful out. So go on ahead, get those kids over to the Busybody Play Cafe, a new partner of the TCP network. Not only that, but we want to remind you that tomorrow is a Thunder Thursday. That's right. It'll be a new episode. DJ Double O is going to be interviewing a player from Lancaster's very own ECBL League, the Red Rose Thunder. That's
Yeah.
taking place again tomorrow because it's Thunder Thursday.
There's a basketball game on Saturday.
Yes, I was getting to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Excuse
And
me.
then
Sorry.
you can come.
She doing
and
the
meet
whole
us.
rundown.
Right. You're going to come and meet us on Saturday to see these games live. Games happen on Saturday. There's a game this Saturday at Lidditz Christian School. The games are phenomenal. They're fast-paced, high energy. You're going to love it. And there's a nice little concession stand as well. That's taking place again this Thursday. The Red Rose Thunder will be playing the Nova Bulls, if I am correct. And also taking place this weekend is the Grief Conference, which will actually be co-hosted by Reverend Dr. Mother-in-law Sherry Lupton at the Groff
nice.
Center, taking place this Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. again at the Groff Event Center. Expressions of grief in the community. So if you have been, or just want to get out and learn more about the grieving process, go on ahead and register and check that out. It's available on Eventbrite. Over to the desk.
Mi madre.
Hey.
Mi madre. Yes. Here we go.
There it is. There it is. And since nobody called in to win these tickets,
It's all right.
Right.
I'm just gonna continue to be this
give it a
fine,
Dr. H.
fine ladies man and everything in between. So with that being said, to my kings and queens, baby dolls, baby boys, and everything in between, to him, he, her, she, they, them, we, baby. We love you. We appreciate you. I want to say thank you, Representative Sturla.
Thanks for having me.
And you know, our black lady doctor. I miss her. I love when she's here. We just look at each other and giggle. Hey! Like, hey! Hi, friend. Yeah. So I just want to say this to everybody. Listen, you don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find it and when you need it. And remember, to make a difference in someone's world, you don't have to be amazing, rich, talented, beautiful, or perfect. You just have to be you and care. Have a great day, y'all.
Love it, folks. There it is. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in church.
The digital church.
Sorry. This is your penny.com health minute. In part 2 of our healthcare terminology, we begin with the phrase out-of-pocket maximum, which is the most money in the form of deductibles, co-pays, and co-insurances you can pay each year, regardless of how much medical care you use. Do you need prescription medication? Well, penny.com has provided a convenient way for you to look at the plans you are considering to see how much your prescription could cost. Network is also a key term you will continuously see while navigating penny.com. Your network is compiled of healthcare providers and facilities your insurer has contracted with. Do you want to include your doctor in your plan? No worries. You can use Penny's provider directory to see if your provider is included in your plan. Signing up for healthcare coverage can be intimidating. Luckily,